War of the Rohirrim is dead on arrival. That might sound like a bit of a hot take, but let's look at what Tolkien wrote in the appendices of Return of the King and compare that to what the writers are doing with this story, and you can judge for yourself. Tolkien writes that Helm Hammerhand is the most talked about of Rohan's kings between its founder Eorl and King Theoden. Tolkien tells of a dispute that Helm has with Freka, a powerful, dark-haired Dunlandish man who paid little heed to the king and whom Helm mistrusted. Freka asks for the hand of Helm's daughter for his son Wulf. Helm refuses, Freka becomes enraged, they end up duking it out and Helm kills him with a single blow of his fist. Hence the hammer hand. Helm then banishes Wulf and his kin. But 4 years later, while Rohan is being invaded by its enemies, and Gondor, its ally, is busy fighting on its own so it can't offer help, Wulf seizes the opportunity to invade Rohan. Wulf takes the king's city of Edoras. He drives Helm to the Hornburg, which is later known as Helm's Deep, as we see in the Two Towers. Helm loses 2 of his sons while fighting Wulf's men during this time, but Helm himself is also dressing up in all white, going out in the middle of the night, wreaking havoc on encampments of Wulf's men. Until one night, Helm does not come back from his raid, and later he's found frozen in the snow, but he's standing up unafraid. Eventually, the winter ends, Helm's nephew Freolaf rises up and slays Wulf and ends up driving out the Dunlanders from the lands of Rohan. They retake Edoras and a new line of kings is established, from whom Theoden, who we meet in the Two Towers, is descended. And that's pretty much it. That is the story of Helm Hammerhand as told by Tolkien in the appendices of Return of the King. Now let's look at what the writers of the War of the Rohirrim have done with this story and how they're choosing to bring that to life on the big screen. Now here's a quote from Philippa Boyens, who co-wrote the original Lord of the Rings trilogy back in the early 2000s, and she's now working on this new War of Rohirrim along with new writers including Phoebe Gittins. She says, in the appendices where the story is drawn from, we get these quite interestingly drawn male characters. Then we get this young female character who's never named. And that was really interesting to me, Boyan said. We know Helm has a daughter, and we know that she was central to the conflict that happened. But myself, and especially screenwriter Phoebe Gittins, were drawn to her. We could feel the weight of being that unnamed daughter, which immediately piqued our interest. Who was she? How did she live? So already you're getting a little bit of the groundwork for how they're approaching this story. It's not what did Tolkien think, what did Tolkien feel? It's here's how we felt, here's what piqued our interest. We could feel the weight of this untold story. Now watch this clip of Philippa explaining to Nerd of the Rings her inspiration for the character and how they came to flesh out the script of this War of Rohirrim film.
You know, it's so easy to write a warrior princess character, and I think we've seen the warrior princess character about him, and you didn't want that. You really didn't want that for her. You wanted it to be authentic.
And she would know how to swing a sword from a kid.
Well,
she's the daughter of Helm. You know,
yeah, she's the daughter of Helm. She's got older brothers. All of that sort of stuff. Yeah. So that didn't interest you so much. It was more her facing up to these really hard choices that she has to make.
A lot of her choices are stripped from her, and so we really wanted to deliver her to a place towards the end of the film where it's about her choice, her having an ability to choose.
Okay, so clearly they're very excited about writing this character, Hera, who is going to be the daughter of Helm Hammerhand. Again, she's not named by Tolkien in the appendices, but they've decided to craft this entire story, this entire film, around this character and really dive into her motivations, the choices that she has to make, her upbringing. I don't begrudge them for wanting to use a character that is mentioned, at least in passing in this, but to construct the whole narrative around her and then to say, but we didn't want to make her a warrior princess. Okay, that sounds plausible, I suppose. It's a little strange of a decision to focus in on this unnamed character and build an entire film around her, but I'll grant you benefit of the doubt there. But since then, we got our first glimpse of Hera in a trailer released for War of the Rohirrim, and let's see how they held up to that promise of not writing her as this girl boss character.
Let us end this, Wolf, as it began, with you and I. If I best you in combat, you let my people go.
Why would I agree to such terms? You have nothing to offer me!
You may wear a crown upon your head, but that does not make you a king. You are too much of a coward to face my father. So face me now.
Right, okay, what part of that was not supposed to be the warrior princess writing? But wait, there's more. Just the other day, another 8 minutes of footage from the War of the Rohirrim was released. Let's see if this does anything to assuage our concerns about girlbossery as the center of this project.
Open the gates!
What is that?
Open the gates! It's the king!
Go!
What are you doing? Rohan still needs you.
No, Hera. They need you. You must lead them now.
Okay, so she goes out looking for her father in the snow. She comes across him. They get attacked by orcs or something. They run back to the fortress, but the gate opens up just enough for her to get back in, but not enough for him. She says the people need you, and Helm says no, they need you. You're the warrior princess. I'm sorry, this just feels a little bit contrived, especially given the fact that, again, this person is not even named in Tolkien's writing. It's not named in the story that he's told. It seems like we've inserted this to tell a different story of our own making for reasons unknown. Now look, I promise this is not about me having an issue with strong female characters. Tolkien actually wrote some great strong female characters that are already in there in the lore that don't need to be rewritten as girl bosses. What I take issue with is using Tolkien as a veneer for your own creativity, for your own messages, for your own agenda. And ironically, this is something that Peter Jackson, who's involved in this project, actually was famous for saying in regard to the earlier Lord of the Rings trilogy.
We didn't want to put any of our own, certainly in terms of the thematic material, we didn't want to put any of our own baggage. I mean, we had no interest in putting our messages into this movie, but we thought that we should honor Tolkien by putting his messages into it. He cared passionately about certain issues, and we thought what we should do to honor him is to make sure that what he cared about ends up in the movie.
And I think that may have something to do with why those films are so beloved by so many, because they were truly faithful adaptations. Yes, with certain liberties taken, and they didn't put in Tom Bombadil and certain things, but overall, the tone and tenor of the thing was so reverential and so subservient to Tolkien. And I think they've shifted gears from that approach with this new project by saying, we're going to jam our own character into this, make it all about what we feel is missing, what we feel needs to be the choices that she has to make. So my fear here is that this project is falling victim to the same pattern of sort of girl bossification that we've seen in recent years in Hollywood. I think about the recent Snow White live action adaptation that's on its way out that has been tainted by Rachel Zegler going out there and saying
she's not going to be safe with the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
I think about the character Rey in Star Wars, who needed no instruction in the Force and is all of a sudden beating Luke and being this awesome girl boss Jedi basically without any training. And then of course we have the Rings of Power version of Galadriel, who is this very much girl bossified warrior princess version of Galadriel compared to the sort of much more feminine but still extremely strong and powerful version of Galadriel that we saw with Cate Blanchett. But interestingly, George Lucas actually responded to some criticism that he was facing about the lack of strong female characters in his versions of Star Wars as its original creator. Let's listen to what he had to say about it.
He said, there's no women in the movies. I said, who do you think the heroes are in those films? What do you think Princess Leia was? She is the head of the rebellion. She's the one that's taking this young kid that doesn't know anything and this boisterous, I know everything guy who can't do anything, trying to save the rebellion with these clowns. She's the hero of the movie. And it's the same thing with Queen Amidala. Even though she has Jedi on her side, she was still the hero prime mover. You can't just put a woman in pants and expect her to be a hero. They can wear dresses, they can wear whatever they want. It's their brains and their ability to think and plan and be logistical. That's what the hero is.
The strong female characters have been there all along. He also said this, I did not want to put a boy's clothes on a woman. I wanted a woman who was a woman, who was very strong wise, and a leader. So again, I'm not saying that it's never okay to have a more masculine, edgy sort of female character who behaves in traditionally masculine ways and who engages in direct fighting and who doesn't wear dresses and those kinds of things. That's fine and good. But it seems like we've reached a point in Hollywood where there's no room for strong femininity as George Lucas is describing it, as Tolkien wrote it in his original books. Instead, we have to have women behaving like men are understood to behave traditionally in order for them to be perceived as strong. But what that does is it totally robs women of a different kind of strength that they've always had, and that is more true to life and feels more authentic in the worlds that Tolkien and George Lucas created and in the world that we live in. We just know that men and women are fundamentally different, and that's okay, and their strength manifests in different ways. So look, it's not that I don't want to see women in strong roles, it's that I want to see authenticity on the screen. I want to see true stories, and especially from one of the greatest authors in history. I want to see his works reverenced, and I want them to be prioritized above whatever agenda that the writers might have. And it's particularly disappointing to see this from Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Peter Jackson, who did such a great job with Tolkien and handling and revering his work in the original trilogy. And I want to say maybe I should still reserve judgment on this and wait and see the War of the Rohirrim film in its entirety. But based on what I've seen so far, you can't really undo that fundamental rewriting of the story as it's presented in the appendices and the insertion of this character and giving her the qualities that they're given. It reeks of this modern sensibilities around girl bossery. Look, it may still be a great film. It may still do well in the box office and people may love to see it, but is it really true to the essence of Tolkien? I have a hard time saying yes. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you agree, disagree. Are you planning on seeing the film? I think I'm still undecided, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.